Welcome to the Shift Stirrers. Before we dive in, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where we record. Michelle and Rosemary work on the lands of the Bunwurrung and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. As we talk about transitions and shifts in our own lives, we recognise that First Nations people have been adapting, surviving and thriving on this continent for over 65,000 years. The world's longest continuing culture. Sovereignty was never ceded, always was, always will be. So Michelle, how are we stirring the shift?
Rosemary, in honour of Dev, I've got a new format today. What I thought is we would give Dev time limits on answering each question. So we'll give her 10 questions and we'll give her a time limit on each question. And what we'll do is we'll ring this amazingly gorgeous bell every time we get to the end of the 3 minutes. What do you think?
Wow, that's so innovative. You're our innovator.
Yeah.
So the shift is being shaken, not stirred.
You
Or
are
correct.
the James Bonds of the shift stirrers. So,
Yeah.
Rosemary, do you want to know why we stir the shift?
I do. I'd like to know that.
Well, have you ever thought about changing a career from the corporate world to a more artisan lifestyle? This is the place for you. This show is not so much about Rosemary and myself. It's about listening to people who have made changes to their lives and moved from one profession to a more artisan lifestyle. It might spark something in you that actually makes you want to stir the shift. So let's have a listen and let's get curious.
I'm Rosemary Patterson
And I'm Michelle Benson.
and we're the Shift Stirrer.
Rosemary, what are you doing?
I'm reading.
Yeah, we've got Dev on with us.
But I'm reading Dev's book.
Well, it's time to actually work with Dev.
Dev, thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Michelle
So happy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me.
Michelle was blown away by your prompt cards when she saw you last December, and I have benefited so much from your Sunday afternoon right here, right now. And I did do a workshop, and it's your fault I have to write another 296 books because I've only written 4.
I just love your books, Rosemary. I think you're just very clever and an absolute delight.
Can we just stop now?
Yeah.
Let's
Now-
start with...
Now, Deb, just to let you know, we're going to give you 3 minutes for each of our prompts, and we're going to ring a bell when those. It's a beautiful bell. It says a porcelain bell.
Was that one of yours?
Yeah. So, Rosemary, fire away with the first question.
Okay, so thousands of people have been through Gunners, professional writers, amateurs and beginners and randoms. I think maybe I was a random. Can you talk about a transformation that you might see in a learner that comes in the first day and when they leave? Maybe you see something different in them.
That is an interesting question because there's no sharing at Gunners. It's for all levels, all genres, and no sharing. And the reason that there is no sharing is because creativity has been capitalized by, well, it's been hijacked by capitalism. And so I never see people's work unless they publish and they send me a book and I read it, or I stumble across it in the newspaper, and you say when they finish. So Gunners never finish. You know,
Yes.
people will say, well, you're not a gunner, you're a dunner because you've written a book. And it's just like, yeah, but I'm going to do something else. So we are all Gunners, and there's no part of the creative process. There's no part of being a gunner that ever finishes. It stays forever. And this is testament to, I run, masterclasses, online, monthly boot camp. But the biggest thing that I run that is probably in some ways the most transformative are my retreats. And I run them in Melbourne, but I also run them in Paris and Provence. And we're running them in Tuscany in 2027. So my point is that I'm about to run my 23rd retreat in Melbourne,
Wow.
in Victoria, and my 27th across the board if you count the ones that I've done in France. So it is not uncommon to meet someone who has been to at least 20 Gunners. And I'm not talking
Wow.
about online meetups. I'm talking about, I went to the original masterclass 4 times. I went to the memoir masterclass, self-publishing masterclass. I've been to 12 retreats in Victoria, and people come to France. One person has been 3 times and 8 people have been twice. And we've only been running them for the last few years. So the transformations that I see are less what you would probably think of if you're thinking about a writer's retreat. I think people would be going, oh, this person published, or this person got their second book done, or there's actually quite a few academics who come, but a lot of people just come because they enjoy hanging out with writers. And if they come to a writing retreat or a writing masterclass, they know that they're going to be hanging out with really interesting, curious, irreverent, imaginative people. So the transformations that I see that are the most meaningful for me, that I never expected, are people who change their lives. Writing, hell is truth seen too late and the truth will set you free. A lot of people are trying to write themselves into their new lives, and a lot of people do. Like, we have people leaving jobs, selling houses, a lot leaving relationships, a lot getting out of toxic, dysfunctional family situations, like just going no contact with people who are unhealthy for them and who no longer serves them. And the transformation in the group as a whole is just incredible. There is this wonderful, I don't like the term fellowship and I don't like the term sistership. What I run is a benevolent feminist dictatorship.
She doesn't have to stop right now, does she?
Yes. No.
Yes.
No. Hang on. No.
Why
This is...
We've got lots of questions to ask you that will lead into all of these.
Yes, I totally agree. Bring me something else.
Because they'll all help. So I'm really sorry.
I said, it's just like you are the benevolent feminist dictators and I am your humble servant.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I'm not a rule follower, in this very specific podcast, I will be.
Oh, thank you,
My
Catherine.
God.
Okay.
By the way, Michelle, it was your innovation to do it this way. I congratulate you on that.
Okay, so, and I can say this because I was a late bloomer in life. I gather you, and something I read, you scraped through your HSC. Now you've written many, many books. You teach thousands of people to write. Talk to us about permission. What stops people from creating, and how do you break through that?
What stops people creating is words and voices from other people in society. As I said, writing and creativity has been hijacked by consumerism and capitalism and the patriarchy. And now, because of the democratization of information via the internet, people feel a little more equipped, or a little more, they feel that they have a permission to write and that their voice is valid and worthy in a way perhaps people didn't in the past. I think it's very important to look at literacy, education and platforming. So when I say platforming, I'm talking about the access to a microphone, access to a publishing vehicle, access to a camera, access to a pulpit, access to a political position, access to the stage as a sage, as a teacher. If you think about how that has been weaponized to prevent people from feeling that their voice is important and their story is important, that's what writing and education and literacy and platforming has been used to discriminate. It's just been used to discriminate. So I think in the early days, I started Gunners about 10 years ago. And as you said, I've had about 10,000 people through, and many, very, very rarely do people only come to one. And I think one of the things that people used to say in the early days, as they'd be leaving La Luna and they'd be full of, coffee and sweets and words and ideas, and their brain was bursting, they were excited and exhausted at the same time, they'd say, "You've given me permission." And I would always say, no, you have given yourself permission. But being in that room made them realize when they were sitting with, if you think about, these people were sitting in a room with a woman who was a professional writer who they knew through the Age, who they knew through Q&A, who they knew from going to Afghanistan with SBS, who they could see what wasn't then, probably 7 books piled up, ready to be sold that she had written. Yet she was dyslexic, she was bipolar, she was from an incredibly disadvantaged and dysfunctional background. And I got 51% for year 12 English. Like, I only just scraped through, and and they were looking at me and going, well, if this woman can do it and can write and to have the confidence to write, and also just take up space and just not ask for permission. Maybe that's okay for me too. One of the and we talked about transformation.
I'm so sad. No, but some questions will cover it. Trust me. Trust the process.
Number 3 was from being a writer to making writers. You've just been talking about that. I guess our listeners would be interested in that shift from the person who was a writer, and then holding space for other people's creativity as well as doing your own. How was that shift?
For me,
Yes.
I didn't ever feel that it was a shift.
Okay.
The purpose of freedom is to free other people. So the kind of person that I am, like my mum was a teacher, 2 of my sons, one's a teacher, he teaches English in China, one's second year Bachelor of Education at La Trobe, and he's going to be a high school teacher too. So I come from a background, and I come from it's just my personality to always be learning and teaching, always helping other people, always encouraging other people. And that's why I set up Gunners, because I had always written, handwriting was terrible, spelling was atrocious, and I was never writing anything interesting to anyone else. I was writing diaries and letters and stuff like that. So the idea of transforming people, I never saw it as that. It was just tapping into what was there. But I have become so aware of people saying, I don't feel I can call myself a writer. And I would say, why not? Which was very interesting, the whole word of who is a writer and who is not. You're talking about making people writers. We're all creative. We're all writers. That is what that's what civilized us. But I kind of understood it recently. I have a lovely garden, and I am the one who does it. But I've never considered myself a gardener. And people go, "You're a gardener. How do you do this?" Or, "You're a gardener. What's your advice?" And I'm going, "No, I'm not a gardener." And I look around at this lovely garden in my house, and this back table that's supposed to be for people to be sitting on and eating, which is covered in pots and plants and secateurs and whatever. And recently I moved that table off the deck because I just thought it's just collecting all of this junk, and I moved it into kind of this sheltered space, a bit like a carport in the backyard. And I thought, well, I've got a gardening bench, so I must be a gardener. So I've never had, it wasn't that I thought that gardeners were above me, or I just didn't think that I was a gardener. But a lot of people, again, let's go back to how writing, literacy, and being given a platform has been used to discriminate. They felt, and I think particularly Australians and maybe perhaps women would think that saying that they were a writer was in some way elevating themselves. And Australians cannot bear anything more than someone being up themselves, and tall poppy and all the rest of it. But I never thought that saying that I was a writer was elevating myself. I simply thought it was a description in the same way I'm a gardener, I'm a butcher, I'm a teacher, I'm a sister. I never saw it as any different. Is that my Irish background, that I come from a culture where words and imagination are just a normal way that we interact? Or has it got to do far more with the fact of who I am, and I'm not interested, don't acknowledge, and I don't recognize power structures like that. That people are not writers, you're not a writer, you are a writer. If you write, you're a writer. If you garden, you're a gardener.
My God, that's so many great lessons for our listeners, which is, are you a cook? Are you a dancer? I love that. They can be creative, and I love that whole...
That's a really interesting point that I've never thought of. The notion of saying I'm a cook or I'm a chef. So we know lots of terrible chefs and magnificent, unqualified cooks. So, whether a person feels comfortable saying I cook or I'm a cook or I'm a chef, and where they feel comfortable and uncomfortable with, I just say own it.
Yeah.
Drive it like you stole it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that story about power and stuff.
You've said something that's going to pull to my heart forever and a day, and that is the purpose of freedom is to free other people. I think that's something that I will remember from this podcast.
Sure, Michelle, if that stood out to you, I'm certain that's what you do. I'm certain that's the way you live your life. I'm certain that people will go, yeah, that's exactly what you do. That totally lines up with your behavior and your values, Michelle. Of course you like that quote because that is who you are and what you do.
So the next question. Okay, what have your students taught you?
It's funny, the word students, and, I'm not into hierarchy. I don't think any of them would call themselves students. But I just call them gunners. They're all just my gunners. And they're gunners whether they've, published their PhD or several books or done, been columnists in newspapers or written amazing cabaret shows or screenplays or whatever. What they have taught me is the power of creative community and connection, and all of those words are so naff and so boring and so nothing. The world is full of a lot of drivel, and if you're looking in the wrong places, you are seeing a lot of talk about money and beauty and renovations and status and kind of, bragging and values that I don't think necessarily naturally occur in any humans. And when you put people together in a creative flat, it's a flat level, there's no hierarchy in gunners. People relax and they connect and they can really authentically become themselves. So I read recently that if you want to pick up discipline in one area of your life, so I'm wearing my gym gear, I'll be going to the gym after this, right? And I don't generally have to ever be concerned about picking up discipline in most areas of my life because I just do as I please, right? And it works. I never think, I should be, exercising. I exercise plenty. I should be sleeping more or less. It's like, no, it's all working. So if you want to pick up discipline in one area of your life, just choose any area and start working on the discipline there. So it could be writing, or it could be exercise, or it could be getting up at a certain time. It could be not drinking as much alcohol or whatever. It will spread to other things. And so what I have learned and seen is that when people start becoming authentic in one area of their life, that is contagious to other areas of their life. And to watch these people come along and even just taking the space to say, I'm going on a writer's retreat. Like for a lot of people, that's a really brave choice, saying, I'm taking this time. I'm leaving you all to fend for yourselves. They are people who are caring for other people and looking after other people and providing things. And I am taking this time and space at a writer's retreat. And clearly, if I'm going to a writer's retreat, I, in some way, shape or form, see myself as a writer.
It's awful. I loved that segment. I loved it. Oh, my God.
I tried to time it well that time. Rosemary.
Thank you. This question's about taking the Melbourne workshops to the Paris retreats, probably from like the La Luna 1 days and then the Melbourne workshops and then to the Paris retreat. What was scary about it, the fears? Could you talk about the confidence that you needed in that sort of broadening of your work?
I've never had an issue with confidence, and I'm just absolutely certain about what I want to do. So when I started doing 1 day masterclasses at La Luna, they'd start at 10 and they'd finish at 4, and I was shoving so much into them. When they left, I really wished that they could, we could spend the night together, they could relax, they could go to sleep and then wake up next morning. You know that they say if you're doing some kind of exam or test, or for me, it'd be like a bit of stand-up that I had to memorize, that it's very important to sleep in between learning it and performing it. So it kind of firms up and sets in your brain. I'd always thought, God, I wish I could just have more time with them, because I'd wake up the next morning after a masterclass. I'd be so happy and so exhausted and just be dying to go, oh, did I say that? Should I say, and often they would send me little messages and ask more questions. And I really wanted to see if there was a place to do that. And I found Seacroft through just like a chance discussion with some women that had all grown up in Queensland. We were talking about the Woodford Folk Festival, and I did a 2-day masterclass there at Woodford at their winter festival called The Planting, and I just loved it. And they told me about Seacroft. So I booked it sight unseen, started selling tickets. And it's just fuck around and find out. I mean, I don't believe in metrics. I don't believe in KPIs. I can't do any kind of spreadsheet or anything like that. I just have my whole life I've run on instinct. And the reason that I've run on instinct is because I grew up in the 70s, Catholic, very poor, and I was just gaslighted my whole life about Father Christmas, boogeyman, gays being bad, Jesus loving you but burning you in hell if you don't so I could not trust anything apart from my own instinct. So I set them up there and I thought, worst thing that happens is I lose 20 grand, but I've given it a go. I'm very motivated by the saddest face of what might have been, that you just have to, you're not going to know until you give it a go. I run the most successful and the most popular writing retreats in Australia, hands down, but not one single business conference or online course or book would ever tell me to do it the way that I've done it. So moving to Paris, doing it in Paris was because of my friend Jess Jekyll, whose birthday it was yesterday, and I'm sitting up in Jess's room at my house, we call it the guest room, and she's going back to Paris. Now, when I could finally get out of Australia, I went to stay with her. She lives in Paris. She's from Australia, grew up in Frankston. And we were traveling around and people went, oh my God, I wish I had a friend like Jess. I was also talking to her she was thinking about what other things she could do. She was a general manager of a bike tour company in Paris at the time.
I even gave you 30 seconds more that.
I love the instinct on that. I love it. Love it. Michelle, you're timing and ringing the bell and asking questions. That's pretty good.
All right. Moment when they're doing your course. So you must watch some people and they're there in the writing course. As you said, it's not communicated to you in that way. But you must see their reaction when they get it, and the aha moment. And I think those are magical. Can you tell us about those aha moments?
Well, the aha moments that you've structured the questions incredibly well. The aha moments are all around permission and simple small and external validation. So they are about, oh my God, I don't need permission. I tell people, shut the fuck up and don't talk to anyone about your writing and don't show anyone your writing. All of these things, so much about writing, which is still, it's about external validation and performing and showing people. Writing doesn't need to be valuable because it's good or because somebody's marked it well or somebody thinks that it's worthy of publication. Writing in itself is creativity is the best way that you can spend your time, full stop, end of, right? And so when I tell them, don't talk to anyone about your writing, and no, you don't need any feedback. Just what you need is to get this down. So Anne Lamott says there's the down draft, the updraft, and the dental draft. The down draft, you vomit it down. You write like your family are dead. You write like no one's going to read it. This is something, when I say write like nobody's going to read it, because chances no one is. People, you can see them deflate. But when I explain to them that, because so many people feel that they are writing for, that's what they feel their motivation is, for some kind of external applause or some kind of approval. But when you take that away from them, and I go, yeah, well, I mean, even only 53% of books that are purchased are even read. So even if it gets published, there's a very good chance that it's not going to be read by everyone who buys it. But also the first thing that you write will often be edited. So no one's ever going to read that apart from you. But when I say that, they first get quite deflated because they think that that's what will motivate them to keep writing. But when they just realize that they need to become a self-sourcing pudding and just tune into their own instinct, and the only way they can do that is by not talking to people or showing people their work too early or too soon, which in 99% of chances is, they just feel free. Simple small is another one, that you don't have to sit down and write for 8 hours. 10 minutes a day, 4 days a week is plenty. And if you do that for a few weeks, then suddenly you won't need that. You'll be so drawn back to, there'll be just this little thing in your brain that's still ticking away, and you wake up in the morning and go, I need to get back to that. I'm up in my in Jess's room, which is the guest room upstairs, and my son's going to be here tomorrow, right? And I painted this very boring white door yesterday, right? Anthony, my partner, is a handyman. He put it on and I painted it. It's a thicker, heavier door. And the first thing I woke up in the morning and thought was, I want to go up and see that door that I painted. Like, that's just painting a door. If you start writing something, it starts calling you back. So simple, small, permission, and feedback is bullshit. Don't, like, your opinion of your like what you think of your writing is none of your business. What anyone else thinks of your writing is none of your business. What matters is what you think of yourself. So that you've got to focus on not the project and getting this thing perfect, but the process. We write for the same reason we exercise and we meditate. We write because it makes us feel better.
And I love your journals. I bought one of them, which is write like your family's dead or something, for a family member that needs to start writing that play. There's probably people at work listening right now. It's Monday morning in Melbourne and they're like, shit, I want to get going on my creativity. I'm in this soul draining job. What's the first thing that you would advise they do? A practical, no bullshit first step.
10 minutes a day, 4 days a week for a month. So on a Sunday night or whatever, decide what day of the week you're going to start. And so maybe your week starts on a Tuesday, you can do as you please. You choose a time of day when you will be most likely to write 10 minutes uninterrupted. That is, leave the phone outside, don't answer the door. If you need to go to the toilet, you're just going to have to wet your pants, right? So you choose a time of the day and it has to be the same time of the day. So let's just choose my week starts on a Tuesday and the time of day that I am going to, the little block of writing. So think about a sunset and a sunrise. You can't change that to another time. So how about I say, because I get up at the crack of 8:30 every morning, how about I say 9 a.m. to 9:10? That is the only time that you're allowed to write, and you can only write for 10 minutes and you can only do it 4 days a week. You think, right, well, I'm going to start tomorrow. It's Tuesday morning, going to start. So you get all ready. You've got your little desk set up the night before, or, you know, your tea bag in the mug and the kettle full of water. And you think, right, this is what's going to happen. The alarm's going to go off half an hour before. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and I've set up a lovely writing space. And you have a timer on your phone for 9 o'clock and one for 9:10, right? And you have that set for the whole week, and the night before you check it's working, and you sit there at the desk like an exam. When the alarm goes off, you start writing, and you cannot stop writing. Well, you can stop writing, but you can't answer a door, you can't answer a question, you can't answer an email, and that's it. If you are about to start at 9 o'clock and there's a knock on the door and there's a courier there and you sign something, and by the time you get back to your little writing place, what has happened is that it's now 9:01. You can't write for that day. You can't write for that day. That day is a write-off. So then you have to start the next day. And if you say you do, yes, I did Tuesday, I did Wednesday, I did Thursday, and I did Friday, you can't write for the next 3 days because you can only write in those little periods. And the idea of that is it gives people a feeling of being off the hook. It's not daunting, and they just feel so fantastic. It's like, you know, it's like people who go to the gym before work. They cannot not tell you. And it makes them, it teaches them simple small. It starts their self-sourcing, putting feedback loop happening, and they see how much they can actually get done in that time. And people will say, but Dev, what happens if I've still got great ideas after the 10 minutes? And I go, well, just voice record. You're only allowed to write for 10 minutes a day in a certain bracket of 10 minutes, 4 days a week. That's what I would tell them to do.
That one, you're getting used to this time, Catherine, because you're working within the limit, really.
You can see I've got nothing. The phone is on. I'm recording on the phone. There's just no way known that I've got anything else. So I just think that we are a magic. We're the best Charlie's Angels lineup ever. And we're just thinking that's what's happening.
Love it, love it, love it.
Okay, my next question is, you've talked about people's flaws, dyslexia, mental health, you're a nerd. Some people see these as limitations. Talk about how you've taught people to embrace these as strengths, which I think...
Now, you use the term flaws. I would never use the term flaws. And
No,
I would never
I agree.
use it. And that's... I knew that you would say that. You go, Actually, no, I just wrote that down, but you know what I mean. Differences that may limit them. I think that's what's exactly, but I'm glad to even have that little interaction because people will be hearing that. So ask me that. So what was the question? How have I encouraged them?
Yeah, how do you teach them to embrace these as strengths?
Example, just by example, people just see me walking around, this kind of Sheila, with unbelievable body confidence, absolute confidence in taking up space wherever she chooses, and to be writing the way I want, speaking the way I want, living the way I want. I think that people see me as, and they tell me this, incredibly genuine, and they see that there's no pretense and there's no forcing. It's just, if you see it, you can be it. And they look at me going, hang on, like, all of these things that I thought were excuses about why I couldn't be this and why I couldn't do this, that Sheila is just doing it. And I think then they often start observing where those inner voices came from. And it might be a parent, it might be I hear a lot about parents saying things and quashing people's imagination and creativity. I hear it a lot about teachers. I hear it a hell of a lot about people's siblings. And then they'll go, oh, yeah, my brother's a writer, and anytime I mention blah, 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 blah. So I'll go, well, who gives a shit what he thinks? And I think there is that kind of deflation because they often they feel to heal themselves that they need that person's permission and approval. But actually, all they have to do is, it's very much like Glinda, the good witch of the north. You had the power all along, my dear. It's just like going, well, don't write like nobody's going to read it, and don't show anyone. And when you are and don't talk to anyone about it. And then they realize that so much about what had initially motivated them was about external validation and approval. But actually, when they remove that, there is this whole wonderful love affair of writing, this space that is just theirs alone, and they are not looking at their writing through other people's eyes.
That's wonderful. I'm going to go bell on that.
Beautiful.
Because that was literally 2 seconds out of the 3 minutes. So,
my God. Fantastic. So this question is probably, it's for listeners so they can learn, if you haven't experienced, but you might not, a terrible mistake moment, a time when you thought that move was a terrible mistake or that was a mistake. Can you take us through, but you might not have one, but take us through how you managed it, and perhaps for listeners that will help them.
I often think about the term kind of regret, and I have absolutely no regrets for anything. Cormac McCarthy has a great quote that totally sums up how I live my life and how I feel. You'll never know what worse luck your bad luck saved you from.
Wow.
And that absolutely sums up. I cannot think of a single thing in my life that has been a mistake or something I regret. I mean, the word flawed came up before. I just don't think about life or people as good or bad or, flawed or perfect. It's not a world that I've ever lived in. I've always just thought everybody is doing their best no matter how it appears. And I just think people are pretty clever and delightful, and most importantly, myself. There was something I saw recently, and an interviewer was talking to an athlete, a female athlete, a female journalist, a female athlete. I think that this is relevant, and saying, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? And the woman just looked at her and said, I've never had it. Like, I think I totally have deserved what I have gotten, and I think I'm awesome. And that's exactly how I feel. And the woman kept pushing back, going, hang on, like, how can that be right? Because I always feel anxious about what other people think, and then I'm going to make a mistake, and then I'm not good enough. And this woman is just like, still just looking at her, blinking, going, I have never experienced it. And this woman could not believe it and was kind of saying that she was bullshitting. And I feel exactly the same. I've never had imposter syndrome. And I think that the term was created to make people think that they should have it. And think about, like, I'm 57, I think, and I get in my feed all the time stuff about anti-aging stuff and weight stuff. I've never had a conversation about that stuff. I've never Googled any of that stuff, but the algorithm knows that I'm 57 and thinks that I should want to look younger or want to be smaller. You know, that term flattering, oh, that's very flattering on you. It's like, you saying that it makes me look smaller. What makes you assume that I want to look smaller? I don't. I want to feel, I'm not just happy with, I'm fucking delighted with who I am and how I feel. And I think about when I was pregnant, I loved being big. I felt so majestic, you know, walking into a room and taking up space like that. So yeah, I just, again, if you write down anything, dear reader, dear watcher, the purpose that you'll never know what worse luck your bad luck saved you from. There's not one thing that has happened that my youngest son would call a pickle in life that I haven't been, because you never know what would happen if the other thing happened. You never know.
Wow. I love that, Michelle. Looking smaller was not my KPI, someone else's.
Yeah.
Now, we're up to you. Ripple effect. I thought it was my turn again. No, it's my turn.
Okay, this is question 10, and when we have our signature quirky question, but I won't, after question 10, I won't actually be ringing the bell. The signature quirky question, I'll leave up to Rosemary to finish that off because that's the end. Effect. And that, by that, I mean, you know, you have people who do gunners, you have people who come back and do gunners again and again and again, which I'm feeling like I should do gunners, by the way.
Yes, you must.
And I got 51 for English 2 years in a row.
I got 47.
You win. Rosemary, you win.
But I actually would love to hear you talk about, people have done your courses, they've come out, they've sent you the book they've done, they've gone on to do, and I'm sure this occurs, other things other than writing books. But you must see that ripple effect and how, because I'm feeling the ripple effect from today already, how that actually encourages people to just go out and live and be and do. And tell us, please, experiences of that.
Well, I think I kind of covered that with saying that people become lesbians, they leave partners, they cut off relationships with family members that have been toxic and that have no longer served them. They change jobs, they sell houses, they go back and study other things, they put themselves forward for jobs and promotions. It's confidence. It's giving themselves permission and feeling like, yeah, you know, to fuck around and find out. I just see people stepping into their most authentic versions of themselves, and what it is about saying, I'm going to a writer's retreat, or I'm going to a writer's masterclass, or I'm doing Right Here, Right Now, which is an online writing boot camp, or even I'm buying a box of writing prompt cards. That somehow is telling them there's something called revealed preferences. So the preference that they are making is revealing that maybe I am a writer, and maybe this is what I enjoy more than anything, or one of the things that I enjoy that makes me feel me, and then prioritize not just that, but other similar things in their life that they may have felt. Like even stuff like wearing clothes that they might go, oh, it's a bit racy, or it's a bit short, or it's a bit mutton dressed up as lamb, or stuff like that. They start to really investigate other inner voices that have made them think that they shouldn't do certain things, or wear certain things, or be certain things, or say certain things. And it's just contagious. Like once people come to Gunners, there is just no stopping them.
Beautiful.
I'm going to ring off on that. So that was a good point. Rosemary, it's over to you for the ending.
Great. So if you could give your past self one superpower to make your life now easier, what would it be?
Nothing.
That's wonderful to share for our listeners, and so much learning in that. Michelle, do you know where to get the prompt cards from? Only caffeindeveny.com.
It's my shop, so there's 3 lots. I would love to. Every single sale I get a huge thrill. I designed and made these beautiful, incredibly good value writing prompt cards. There's 100 prompt cards. There's a general box, which is used. Lots of people just have it, but it can be used in schools, even if in workplaces. So there's nothing which is beyond G-rated, but they're sophisticated and adult nonetheless. There's a memoir box, which is maybe my favorite. and that's the red box. And there is the black box, which is the not safe for work. So that is very confrontational. It's very racy. It's very funny. A lot of people use it for date night. But I also just don't think that writing prompts all need to be G-rated. So I just made those 3 boxes. So you can head across to $35 a box. The boxes, they are incredibly good quality. And the reason that they are such good value is because there's no middleman. I made them with a designer. I supervised the printing, I did the freight, I did all the money myself, and they will never be above $35 because that's how much they cost me, with a little bit on top so I can buy fish and chips and services for my electric bike and brunches. But yeah, they're there forever. I've still got quite a few boxes, and so I'm hoping to be selling them for the next few years. But I would love any of the people who are listening or watching to head across to catherinedeveny.com and check out at the store what I've got there, books and stuff like that. Another one, I think that, people will say, what's that thing that you always say about money? And I'm well known for saying a few things. Oh, use your words. That is a book I wrote on writing, and a lot of people call that the Bible. I can't remember. There's like something, I sold lots and lots of those, but you can buy them online with me as well. And one of the things that I say is every time you spend $1, you are voting on how you want the world to be. So I urge you to spend your money at places and with people that are independent, local, feminist, progressive, creative. And that includes Rosemary and Michelle.
Awesome.
Put your money where your mouth is. The other day, we have this soiree for the Gunners International people, past, present, future, and curious. And we did that about 10 days ago here in my house. The amazing catered by Emma Eastman event, just absolutely gorgeous. And everybody left with a goodie bag. And in it was a baguette, French butter, French jam, Jess's favourite French cheese, macaron from Le Belle Miette that make the most amazing macarons. And one of my gunners was crook, and she really couldn't come, and she lives close. And I dropped her goodie bag to her the following day, and I saw there was this shop next door that sold very cute jewelry, and I'd never seen it before because I'd never stopped at that part of Sydney Road. It was called Snafu. And so I couldn't wait till the next time I was riding along, locked up my bike, went in there, bought a couple of bits and pieces. And then I saw this toy shop that I'd never been into, which was called Treetop Toys. And I spent a bit of money there. I didn't need any of these things, but I really wanted to live in a world and in a community and in a place where little shops like this exist. And so don't come crying to me when that cafe closes or that person doesn't sell those books anymore or doesn't have that stall at the market if you are not putting your money where your mouth is. And you don't have to spend much, but if you enjoyed this, I urge you to check out what Michelle does and sell, check out what Rosemary does and sell, check out what I do and sell, and don't buy it because through pity, buy it because what we do is amazing and beautiful and incredible and independent and creative and made with heart. It is not corporate stuff. We can't afford to do stuff which is not going to touch someone's heart or, throw a few gold coins our way. Have a look at what we do. And if you don't have the money or you're not really into what we do, tell other people about it. Tell other people, go, look, this isn't my thing, but it might be yours.
Oh,
You're amazing. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
And interviewing you today has been, I've learned so many things. And our listeners will too. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I was so happy and so touched that you asked me. Thank you so much for having me and spending this time with me, but also sharing it with the watchers and the listeners. Lots and lots of love. And don't forget, you will never know what worse luck your bad luck saved you from. Cormac McCarthy from his book, The Road.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Rosemary, I love that interview. She's such an amazing woman. She's done so much. And she's kissed the Blarney Stone somewhere along the way.
She's so generous in spirit. I love her. One of my favourites.
What was your key learnings?
Well, lots. One of my favourites is if you write, you're a writer. I love it because, and another one was what you think of your own writing doesn't matter. It's none of your business. And I love it because As artists, we challenge ourselves sometimes to wonder if our work is any good. And if you're right, you're a writer. Call yourself a writer. I love that. What about you?
I think there's something that she said during the interview that really resonated with me, and even her answer to me resonated with me. And she said that the purpose of freedom is to free other people. And I said, I love that. And she said, that's because that's what you do. And I thought about it and I thought, what a wonderful viewpoint. And I do try to free other people in my thinking. So yeah, I just loved it. I just really, really love that.
And I see how that resonates with you, because that's part of your mantra and part of your goals and values with your work, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It fits with my ethos on life.
Hmm.
So, Rosemary, what's inspiring you this week?
Well, Michelle Benson, I'm inspired by you because we said we'd do our goals in our whip, didn't we? And
Yep.
we did our goals earlier today. I went through mine, and number one, I had someone who cares and someone who's an ear for me, and you really listened, gave
Thank
feedback. Yeah. I was telling you, which you didn't know about me, that I do put on a podcast or music and I'll flow draw. Who knows what comes out? It's usually crazy. But you suggested that I might put these up on Etsy. These crazy little drawings, which are part of me that come from deep within somewhere. And so I'm inspired, and I do want to thank you for that. And that is part of our weekly work in progress. It's one of our agenda items, and it's a valuable one. Thank you.
Well, I do love that drawing. I want to see, I'm looking forward to see it when you colour it. I will probably get one off Etsy and put it on my walls. So, yeah, maybe in the studio, because the studio needs some artwork. Okay, what's inspiring me? I have been immersing myself in Art Deco. Melbourne is a beautiful city and has many beautiful Art Deco buildings. And a history of Art Deco is so much a part of its culture. We had a lot of money in the 90s and we spent it on buildings. And there is lots in Melbourne. I actually had a date day where I went out and I just photographed those buildings in Melbourne. And then from there, I started constructing some ceramic forms. The first one I've created is this ceramic bowl, which you can see in the photograph. And as you can see, I've actually cut and moved the clay to create this bowl. This range was only going to be available in black, and I'm only going to have it on my website. So I'm very excited about what I'm doing. I've developed a vase, and I think I'm only going to keep it to a few things, like maybe a set of bowls that sit inside each other, which is very, very vibes. And yeah, so I've been so inspired by it. I sort of feel like I've even started to change my look, wear more 1920s type dresses, get out the LBDs, little black dresses invented by Coco. So yeah, as you can see, I am submerged.
Yes, you are submerged. I love the, with the black, it's going to be absolutely delicious.
It is going to be delicious. I'm calling the range Porcelain Noir.
Beautiful. Great.
Well, Rosemary, you can guess who's coming up. And you'll be guessing because we'll actually be posting on Instagram, and you can get a guess from who's coming up by what's posted on Instagram. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to Shift Stirrers podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that follow button so you can get notified whenever we release new content. We'd love to hear from you, and feel free to reach out to us at theshiftStirrers@gmail.com, or you can find our individual email addresses and websites in the show notes below. We love questions. You can also connect to us on Instagram at Shift Stirrers. If you found value in today's conversation, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a review or a rating on your podcast platform. It really helps others to discover the show. And if you know someone who will benefit from this episode, please share with them. Until next time, keep stirring the shift. Just a quick disclaimer, Michelle and Rosemary are not experts in any of these discussions today. We present this podcast in the interest of getting you curious to make changes. Thank you.